given the performance of James Harden, as a Dwyane Wade stan, as a member of the Wade Hive, of Wade County, if you will, I am also thoroughly enjoying him cementing his legacy even further. Despite him not playing this weekend, James Harden didn't show up either. Wade fans, we no longer have to worry about the burgeoning Harden wave of guys saying, well, look at the numbers. Look at the peak. Look at the MVP season. I don't give a damn. He don't show up when it counts. C-Cat's on the other side of the glass on the ones and twos. Really, you're on the other side of the map, dog. Why you ain't come to Chicago with me?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find it within my travel plans to get out there. Didn't find a flight that was suited to me, but I did not know this Heat/D Wade fandom clashed with James Harden fans to this level. This is the first I'm hearing of it today. You said that like one of the biggest winners of the weekend is someone who didn't put a basketball uniform on. It confused me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't think from the Miami Heat fan side and from myself, like a Dwyane Wade fan, I don't think there's any doubt in our mind or hearts whether or not Wade's legacy surpasses James Harden, whether or not you would rather have one of those guys in their prime on your team if you're trying to win anything of substance. It's just this weird thing that happens, and it happens like once every 2 years or so, where the Harden stands start tweeting out random statistics and then tweeting out like what Wade's back end of his career looked like versus how Harden has played into his mid-30s. And they try and do it in a way that makes it seem as if there's a conversation to be had, right? Like, as an innocent bystander, C-Cat, you don't feel like this is even a discussion.
No, because I value winning a lot.
Yes.
And D Wade's got enough winning to where it trumps the lack of just ability to do it on the biggest stage that James Harden's got a reputation for now.
They're calling him Lil Game James. Do you know how disrespectful that is? Like, like what? How do you, as a guy who, and again, I've never been a basher of Harden and his talents. As a person that is from Houston, Texas, I appreciate the years that he donated to my city. I appreciated the amount of money he poured into the pockets of the young ladies trying to pay their way through college, all throughout the establishments in my hometown. No slander towards James Harden here, but it is interesting that, like, year after year, this guy treats the postseason like it's a summer Friday. It's like he can't wait to get out of there. He's no interest in extending a season.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I fight for the players that seem to come up short when the spotlight is the brightest, when the most eyeballs are on them, because maybe it's just random. Sometimes you just don't have it, and maybe he's just rolling snake eyes time after time after time in these big moments where this dud of a performance might as well have been taking place on October 28th, but no, it was in May.
I think I do have an interesting take on this, that it leaves room for at least a little bit of consideration. Like, I don't think James Harden gets worse in the postseason, but I do think he treats every game with the same level of intensity, the same amount of care, and it does also start to feel like he is uninterested in fighting for his life. Like, I've never seen James Harden look desperate to extend his season. I've never seen him play with the kind of passion and will that you see other superstars or even role players tick their game up to when they're trying to buy more time in the playoffs. Like, you would assume a guy that could be as dominant as he's been, right? I think he had a season averaging like 35 a game at one point. You would assume he would be like, he could tick into some kind of mode that would make him be one of the hardest guys to deal with. But instead, it feels like whenever the game is on the line, whenever the season is on the line, he comes up short. You want to hear an interesting Harden stat?
Oh, please.
Following this weekend. In his last 13 elimination games, so this isn't even just me nitpicking the back end of his career, because he is a 35-year-old guard now at this point, so you can say, okay, we're not going to expect the level of dominance that he had in the middle of his prime. No. Last 13 elimination games. This dates back to when he was at peak Harden form. James Harden has shot 39% from the field. Under 40% from the field in his last 13 elimination games, and his teams have gone 2 for 11. 2 and 11. I don't understand how you could even try and, like, artfully craft a conversation surrounding all-time great shooting guards. And again, as I'm sitting here in the Windy City here in Chicago, the single greatest shooting guard and the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, made his hay in May, in June. the reason why his legacy is insurpassable, the reason why LeBron James will never be able to catch up to him is because he had an uptick in play when it mattered most. Dwyane Wade from Chicago, he's a guy who had regular season numbers that were great enough, obviously, for him to make all-star teams, to make all-NBA teams and whatnot. Never had an MVP season. You can argue there was a year or two where he maybe should have been considered more, but never got to that plateau. But I will say this, his numbers always upticked in the playoffs unless there was an injury concerning him, and I never for once felt like he was a guy that was ready for vacation. Every single time I see Harden on the court in the playoffs, I'm like, is this dude have dinner plans? Does he have a reservation for next week in Cabo or in Cancun or maybe even in Madrid? I know the guy's like a fashion dude as well. Like, he seems disinterested. He just does.
Yeah, some people have that competitive fire. That's definitely open for criticism if someone just looks kind of accepting of their fate. When things are going bad, it's like, okay, that's just what's going to happen on this Game 7.
We're going to ask today. We're going to ask the good people today. Number one, who has the most motion coming off of this sports weekend between the Stanley Cup playoffs? We had F1 Miami, of course. We also obviously had the NBA postseason where we had two Game 7s, which were two blowouts, really, and two spectacular performances. The Clippers had a spectacularly bad outing, whereas the Rockets and their loss, it wasn't necessarily all the way their fault. They got outcoached, and Buddy Hield happened. Buddy Hield, of all people, happened. Nine three-pointers. 9 threes. It's hard to say that he doesn't have a lot of motion. To me, it is Dwyane Wade, though, because this is just the first round of the NBA postseason, and for a guy like Wade, who his legacy is going to be one that's going to be tough to decipher down the line because he ended his career right before there became this offensive explosion in the NBA. So many other guys that play his position are going to have numbers that surpass him. It's hard to measure how impactful Wade was on the defensive side of the court, even though he is one of the greatest shot-blocking guards of all time. It's hard to measure what his defensive impact was. His stats will never measure up to the guys that are shooting at the clip that they are these days. He never really had a three-point shot, but I will say he was a playoff performer. He showed us that in 2006. He showed us that as well in 2012, but as his knees gave out on him, we did see a little bit of a deterioration. But a decade out from that, we see his, just a little bit more behind him now as we see Harden flail out, and you see why the difference between a guy like Harden who can fill up the box sheet versus the difference with a guy like Dwyane Wade who can fill fans with positive emotions as he pours it out every single time. Like, there's a difference. It's a clear difference, and it's favorable for Wade. So the first thing is going to be who has the most motion coming off this weekend, CCAT, but also how will James Harden be remembered? How will the legacy of this guy continue to be cemented and remembered? He has a player option to come back to the Clippers next year. I think about $35 million. He clearly was, had a bit of a renaissance regular season where there were those conversations, right? Like, Kat, before the playoffs, you bought in on the Clippers. You thought they had a real legitimate shot to not just make it out of the West, but maybe even win a title.
Ooh, I loved their path. I absolutely loved their path in the West specifically because they'd have against a couple of, or after they got through the Nuggets, unproven in the playoffs Thunder team. Yeah, I thought there was a chance for the Clippers and James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, but I was proven incorrect.
It's the age-old story, right? Like, Harden, as bad as he is in the playoffs, at least he's consistent, and he's consistently a no-show in the games that matter the most. Like, the one thing I can give him a bit of a pat on the back for is that specifically, he's not fooling us anymore. He almost fooled you, and if anyone benefited from the Harden dud more than Dwyane Wade, maybe it was Kawhi Leonard because he had a stinker as well. Minus 33, the worst plus-minus in his postseason career, and it happened in a Game 7 at Denver. 120-101. The Nuggets won that one. Kawhi Leonard's stat line, 22 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. James Harden, 7 points, 13 assists. I think he had 10 of them in the first half. 7 points, 13 assists, 5 boards. He was only 2 for 8. In a game to save your season, James Harden only mustered up the energy to attempt 8 field goals. It just can't happen. No. It just can't happen.
You want to talk about like foils of one another, where we talk about Kobe comparisons and someone who might have that same competitive fire, that same bleep you mentality. I think we find the opposite of what we have with Kobe Bryant in terms of he'll keep shooting if he's missing.